While you lived in India, what seemed to be the biggest threat to public health that you witnessed?
Um, Waterborne
Waterborne
diseases
illness.
transmitted by mosquitoes and things of that nature,
Okay.
more
Yeah.
so than more common. And in India, we have monsoon season, so there's always, a lot of rain for 2 3 months, and that results in standing water,
Uh-huh.
which results in mosquito that's breeding ground.
So, what kind of control methods would y'all use for that?
Actually, they have a lot of, I think originally it used to be, what is it called, DDT or some
Yeah,
sprays, but
the
until that became, it became known that it was uh,
it
it
didn't have.
created its own problems because of the chemicals in it.
Yeah.
So they have other methods, but that's of course after I left. So.
Where y'all like have it cover y'all's water sources, and
Yeah.
did they drain?
Well, actually, no. They used to spray that primarily wherever there was likelihood of standing water. I mean, it may not be here today, but if it rains a lot tomorrow, maybe it'll be there. So they would spray that area.
And have you experienced any global initiatives with like blindness in India? Is the blindness
Yes.
a problem in India?
Well, it's one of those things where, in numbers, even a small percentage is a lot of people. So that is one. TB used to be another, and as Pam probably remembers it, Dr. Frieden was there, who's director of CDC. He was there as a young EIS officer in TB eradication. So he always throws that into one of his speeches.
Right. And is there anything else you would change about any global health initiatives for any of these in India?
Yeah, because well, I wouldn't change, but maybe there is a lot more attention to these major issues now than it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. And a lot more money has gone towards that. Because one of the things that I do remember is um, polio was one of the major problems, which has now been eradicated. Or TB and polio. The thing is that because the numbers and density is so high in cities, population density, that any small health issue that can be transmitted from one person to another, it can grow very fast. But at the same time, we have not seen any Ebola-related issues. So there's a lot more awareness, and that has to do, somewhat with better information dissemination and things of that nature. I remember on my last trip, there was what is that? Bird flu, but it was hardly, maybe 4 or 5 people died, and 4 or 5 people, when the denominator is billion,
Yes.
is like, yeah, you got it controlled.
Is there a certain control method that they can like quarantining and
Yes, they
is it
have.
forceful quarantining?
Actually, when I went there, this is back in 2009, that I noticed that you landed, and within the airport itself, they had health workers checking temperatures and things like that. So, something like that could add to one's time, because you're tired and you want to just get out of the airport, and it adds because there's another line that you have to stand in and go through. I also noticed, and that's just the airport, but I noticed that they were checking at the malls, huge shopping malls, and they had security and healthcare workers just watching people going in, and they have some tools that would check, like you check your eyes, and they could tell whether you have fever.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool.
And was that a mandatory thing to get into
Yeah,
the
yeah,
mall?
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, because it's like, here's one door, and it's like, suppose we started putting in metal detectors, you know, so that people don't bring in weapons.
Yeah.
It's like that. People were watching you as you walked in.
It's the first line
But
of
I mean,
defense.
nobody walked behind you. Once you were inside, you were inside. But they basically cleared you, that you were not carrying anything possibly that you might transmit to somebody else.
Since India has that special situation, they have to be pushed to do things like that.
Yeah, and the thing is that, but it was interesting because I saw it in 2009. It wasn't there in 2010.
Oh.
The same mall. So it is. It was more sort of, instead of being reactive, to be proactive. If you notice that there are some things, some problems that are around in the world, and if there's a chance that it might come in, then we might as well check and be ready before it gets here.
Well, I don't want to take any more of your time, Mr. Rajesh.
Oh, sure, no problem.
It was a pleasure being